The moors have a silence all their own. It isn't peace, it's the kind of quiet that waits. James Hargreaves discovered this the first morning he stood at the edge of Hollowmere, his boots sinking slightly into wet earth. Before him stretched the ruins of a small mining village, its blackened cottages half buried in fog. The buildings leaned like drunks into one another, and the smell of damp stone clung to everything. James was 42, a quiet man by habit and necessity. His wife, Margaret, had left him the year before. She said it was because of his work, but that wasn't true. She couldn't stand the silences he brought home at the end of every day. The way he would stare at blueprints long after the light had gone, as though they might whisper secrets only he could hear. He told himself the assignment at Hollowmere would help him reset. Just a few weeks, mapping the old land for redevelopment, then back to London and a new life. When he checked into the local inn at Egton Bridge, the innkeeper, Mrs. Doyle, gave him a complicated look. "You're not going up there alone, are you?" she asked. "I am," he replied, folding his map. "It's just ruins, nothing dangerous." Mrs. Doyle hesitated. "Ruins don't stay that way without reason." That night, James dreamed of a door creaking open somewhere underground. He could hear whispers behind it, urgent, close. He woke before dawn with a pounding in his forehead and the sound still in his ears. He rented a caretaker's cottage near the site, an ugly little structure leaning toward the bog. The first week passed quietly. He spent his days walking through Hollowmere, sketching broken chimneys and the skeletal frame of what had once been a chapel. The fog never fully lifted. It swirled among the buildings like smoke from invisible fires. Then, one evening, while examining the chapel foundations, he heard the first whisper. It came from the ground, so faint he almost dismissed it, but unmistakably human. He dug under a loose stone and found nothing but black mud. Yet when he stood still again, the whisper continued, winding through the moss like breath. At the cottage that night, the whispers returned. They came through the walls, a soft rustling that grew clearer near the hearth. He leaned close and thought he could make out his name, James, drawn out in a sigh too long to be natural. "Foxes," he muttered aloud, trying to believe it. "Wind and foxes." Sleep came in fits. When it did, he dreamed of faces pressed against glass, hundreds of them. He woke gasping, the walls wet with condensation, his sketchbook open and covered in markings he didn't remember drawing. Spirals, runes, and a crude map that ended in a circle labeled the mouth. By midweek, his nerves began to fray. On one of his hikes toward Egton, he met an old man sitting by the gate that marked the edge of Hollowmere. The man was wrapped in a wax coat, his eyes clouded almost white. "Surveyor, are you?" the man asked, his voice brittle. "Architect." The old man nodded slowly. "Then you'll be hearing them soon. They whisper to draw you down. Don't listen too close." James forced a smile. "I've heard stories, and I've heard them call my son," the old man said. "He went down there too, thought he'd bring the village back to life. When they pulled him from the shaft, he didn't have a tongue left to speak with." The man turned away after that, humming tunelessly. James walked on, but the words stayed lodged under his skin. On the seventh day, James found the hole. It was beneath the chapel altar, hidden by slabs of moss. A narrow tunnel led straight into the moor. The air down there felt still, as though time had forgotten to move. He told himself it was foolish curiosity, yet his mind whispered another word: discovery. He carried his lantern and robe inside, each step echoing on damp brick. The tunnel widened into a chamber. The walls were carved with hundreds of faces, some weeping, some screaming, all tilted upward as if staring through the earth. Then the voice spoke. Not from the darkness, but from behind his eyes. It said his name, slowly, kindly, James. He dropped the lantern, and its flame flickered blue before dying. From the shallow water, something rose, a pale shape stretching from the surface like a hand, but too long, too jointless, too deliberate. He stumbled backward, scrambling up the shaft, as whispers filled the air, louder now, pleading. When he emerged, the fog screamed against the stones. The whole moor seemed alive. He ran, losing the path, the mist closing behind him like a door. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Doyle sent a constable to check the cottage. The bed was made, the fire was cold. On the table lay James's journal, Open to the last page. They want to be built again. Hollowmere is still alive beneath us. Every brick remembers a voice. No one saw him after that. His car was found by the verge, keys still in the ignition. The road to Hollowmere was graveled over and erased from the maps. Locals never go near that part of the moor. On certain nights, though, when the wind drifts from the north and the fog rolls deep, villagers claim they hear the toll of a bell that no one can see, and a voice, half buried in the mist, calling the name, James, over and over until the wind dies.